adversity, bring it. The struggle, we welcome it. Snooze on life, never that. We are Dave Regina and Mike Pirelli, and this is the No Snooze Podcast. Come on. So this was just rambles for an hour.
But I think that's what people want.
Yeah,
they
yeah,
don't
I
want
guess.
us to, you know.
But we did want to discuss like interview process because we're both going through some business moves right now.
Well,
right?
when you say interview process, I think for me the main thing is like finding and talking to potential partners and or bosses, or, you know, whoever.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about on a business level. Interview being whether it's a partnership, job opportunity. We're both going through things. We have aspirations of moving up in our careers. It seems to be happening for both of us at a nice, steady pace. But again, I think we're putting the action behind the things that we're talking about. So I had an interview experience this week. I actually had 2 interviews. Can't get too specific on the details of it because it's not finalized. But I wanted to discuss, some tactics in interviewing.
Love it. And then on my side, I've been talking with potential partners to team up with that are like co-branders for certain things. Not to get too specific.
Yep. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. And when you're going for a partner and you're not going for a job, it's important to figure out what you want. And if you're, we'll dive into it, but it's very important to go in with a target or a goal when you go to talk to people.
Ironically, I also happened. So one, I was interviewed, right? And then the other side of things is I'm interviewing for positions, right? There's a couple positions that were available, so I'm conducting the interviews for it. So I had like both sides of things,
which is nice.
And I've been on the other side of interviews for the majority of my career. I've been doing a lot of the interviewing. So this was interesting.
What side do you like more?
Well, I think anybody likes being interviewing another person.
See, we talked about it a little bit, but I like being interviewed because then I feel like I can ask them questions like you were saying and actually interview them as well.
Yes.
That's
a great tactic. That's definitely one of the tactics that I would say, and this is no advice, but we'll just tell you.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest thing.
Kind of how it went. I think the first thing always for me, like when I was when I was being interviewed, right? Good job opportunity and a lot of growth that was there. Again, not set in stone. Hopefully soon I'll be able to speak on a little more of the specifics of it. The first thing I did was made sure I was extremely knowledgeable on the actual position, what it entails, and then knowledgeable on the people giving me the interview.
Yep.
And that's where what you're talking, what I had said off camera to you is that's where the questions came in.
Yep.
Like I found out some of their interest and things like that, and it was pretty easy via social media these days to find out what people are interested in.
So much easier.
And you can search. I mean, LinkedIn has a lot of information, Instagram, whatever it is. But I ended up asking a lot of questions back to them, paired with my knowledge, kind of set the interview up for success right from the jump.
Love it.
Right.
And then you're able to ask better questions that are actually relevant. You know where to, if I don't know who was saying it, but someone was saying like the more you get them to like smile and the more they talk about themselves, the better chance they're going to think that the interview went well.
Right. Have you heard of the
mirroring
STAR tactic? So it's like a storytelling technique that was always taught to me to utilize in interviews. And STAR being, I think I even have it down, situation. T is task, the A is action, and then the result.
Okay.
Right? So you explain the situation, then you talk about the task that was at hand, right? This is to sell yourself. Talk about the task that was at hand, then the action that you took to handle it, and then the result of it. So that STAR technique was something I learned in college, and I'm sure it's a global interview thing. I mean, have you heard of it?
I've never heard of that, no.
All right, that's good then. Because I'm sure people are like, duh. And me and you were like, "Oh, this is good." But it was something that stuck with me. Like that, the acronyms they always stick with me.
I love a good acronym.
But it's an easy storytelling tactic and way to really sell yourself and explain a situation that happened all the way through. So I focused on that. I was able to tell some stories when I was asked questions versus just answering, because I feel like when I answer questions, like you were saying, you can always give a great answer. And it's very easy to do that, right? But if there's no like real action or story attached to it, kind of like a podcast. If we just come on and we just talk, about not snoozing on life and we do absolutely nothing, I mean, it's just words.
Yeah.
So that technique is a good thing when you're trying to sell yourself.
Yeah, and sometimes I love the preparation side, but then also you need to be able to, when you ask questions, the reason you're asking questions is figure out how to answer in the best way. You don't want to lie.
Yep.
But you want to tailor your answer to what they want to hear.
Yep.
Right? So, like, I was talking to someone, and I was kind of asking him, like, what do you want to do as far as, like, what are your goals? Because
I love that.
how can I fit into your game plan, right? Like, everyone's got their own agenda. You just got to figure out how to make your agendas move together.
Yep.
So a lot of my questioning and talks have been with, like, for social media and stuff like that. Like, what do you want to do? Are you in Greenwich? Do you work on Greenwich stuff? Do you like real estate? Would you like doing something like, what I mean?
What's in it for you? It's always that win-win, which is great.
I flat out ask, I say, how can I help you without putting more stress on you?
Yep.
Right? Like, especially if you're talking with someone that's above you. I'm always, how busy we are. Imagine someone like above us.
Yep.
I'm always like, I don't want to make your life harder. How do I make your life easier and help with something so that, you're not wasting your time with me type of thing.
Mm-hmm. One thing I also noticed, and I'm sure this happens in your industry too, but the people who are interviewing me, I mean, no offense if they listen to the podcast, but they're a lot older than I am. Yeah. So they're very their mindset is very old school. So it's very easy to anticipate their questions. So people like us and our age bracket right now, I feel like we're at an advantage because if you apply the things that we're saying, they're not expecting that type of stuff. And people, in industries that have been there for years, yes, they're experts in their field, but they don't know the current times and what our age group knows.
Yeah.
And that's an advantage for us. And I felt that.
The know your audience thing is huge.
Yes. Yep.
Like, because there's things that I could go into, but if you know this person has no idea what the hell you're talking about, what's the point? It's like you might as well not even share that.
Right. But for us in our age group, something that, like even Zoom, for example, right? That would be somebody like our grandparents would never be able to conceptualize something like a Zoom. Right, so if you're like back then, right? So now that's something that's like normal for us. It's things like that you can speak to and sell yourself as an advantage and an asset to whoever you're working with.
How do you deal with the being young question? Because that's something that whenever I meet someone that's young in the industry or in any industry, I'm always curious. Because obviously, if you have a track record, you can. Let me give you a specific example. When I go pitch for listings and things, I don't have the track record where I can just point to it and say the proof's in the pudding, which at some point I need to get so that I can close on stuff. I have to leverage my, the fact that I'm young. I have these different, expertise in areas that these other people don't.
Yep.
But that also sometimes doesn't translate because they're also in the age bracket of the other person that's interviewing, right? So they connect with those people a lot more. So it's something that I'm trying to overcome by being better, but it's also very difficult because you don't have that. It's a catch-22. You don't have that track record to be like, listen, if you want to work with the best, I'm the best.
Here are the numbers.
But you don't have the solid to compete with people that are.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty honest about the situation now. So, I mean, when I was first appointed as a commissioner, I was literally one of the youngest that New York State has seen at that time. Looking back, I kind of took the wrong approach because I wanted to basically, lead by example, but I was willing to like consume everything, which was a good thing, but I kind of sold myself in like a perfect way, whereas I quickly learned
No, it's just
whereas I quickly learned that wasn't the tactic, and it's okay to literally say, and I started doing this like pretty openly and honestly in my industry, and I said, look, I got an opportunity.
Yeah.
And somebody took a chance on me, And now I've been able to prove, hey, look, this is what I've done, this is what I've done, this is what I've done. But I actually want to come back and do the same thing for somebody else. Because I do believe that, yes, people who are older could have much more experience than you. Does not make them the best for the job. And I was able to speak to my job based off of my personal experiences in life, which helped me get through. So, you know, me being young, how do you quantify that? Because I can relate that back to when I was 13 years old and my dad was working until 10 o'clock and I had to figure out how to put the chicken in the toaster oven. Like, I would say that that's a young, you know, you're pretty young for that.
Yeah.
But I found a way to do it.
Yeah.
Right? So I use like...
You do like the 8 Mile. You address it up front.
Yeah, like it's a thing. And now, honestly, but being 31 now, I mean, with all these grays in my beard, I kind of I've built a track record for myself where I'm at. I'm sure if I go, you know, somewhere else, they'll be like, who the hell is this guy? But now it's much easier. But I remember being very honest, like, look, I don't know it all. I really don't, you know, but I'm willing to learn. And here's why, because I'm taking these action steps to do it. I remember I did, I signed up for some leadership seminars. I started reading a lot of leadership things back then. And it doesn't happen overnight, you know, but you slowly got to speak the things that you want to do. Your industry is a little bit different with numbers and stuff, right?
Well, I never thought about it because I'm technically interviewing every time I have a listing appointment.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And something that's happened in the past year, and I've mentioned on previous podcasts, is I've lost more than I've ever lost, which means I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to address it, and it's more and more difficult because it's something that, you know, if they really want to focus on it, it's my weak point, is that the history, right? Even if I've done a lot of business in my short, you know, whatever time, these agents have been in for 40 years.
Which is cool, but
which is fine.
Let me ask you a question.
Well, let me tell you what I want to try to do. I want to get to the point where I'm like, all right, well, let's look at the numbers, right? I've been doing it for, let's look at the last year. I sold this many homes. They sold this many homes. Who has more years or experience in this past year? And then, boom. But I don't have that black and white, so now I just have to be more organized. I have to be more prepared. I think I need to take it farther down the track than my interview person does. So, for example, when I go to the appointment, I think I need to have all the marketing ready, like already done.
Already done.
And say, listen, this is my game plan. This is that. You know, I'd love to work with you. If not, that's fine. I'm ready to go in a week. Like, just close before you even get in the door. Assume that you have the deal. Where in the past, I've showed up and had all the numbers ready in my head, but haven't moved as quick. I think speed is my greatest asset at the moment, where that I can beat out someone because I can already sell their home before they're even interviewing other people. You know, but I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is.
It's definitely a good tactic. I was going to ask you though,
it's a lot of work, though.
If I'm a homeowner, right?
Yeah.
And I want to sell my house, and I were to basically, I'm looking for an agent, and this agent were to have the confidence, and yes, there's a little track record. I know that you're, you know, semi-established,
but
right?
in comparison to a lot,
which is fine. But what is the downside? And I'm asking you this as the expert. What would be the downside if I say, Mike Pirelli, I'm going to give you a month, and you can take that month, and I want at least 20 people coming through these doors to see this. Like, I would do that as a homeowner, right? And I would try to get some sort of gauge from you as the agent to say, yeah, you know what, I want that challenge. And that's all I need. Like, if I'm in the industry and I'm an agent, that I would be looking for an opportunity like that. Or, hey, look, I know that Justin's got a lot more experience than me. Give me 3 weeks, and I guarantee you in 3 weeks through this marketing plan that I give you here, and I will make sure that, you know, 15, 20 people walk through this door and see it. If I'm able to sell it, great. If not, then you can move on to someone else. Is that something that would?
So you can do stuff like that. I'm at a firm right now, so they won't sign anything less than a certain amount of time because I am working, which, you know, is what it is. You could do that approach, but there's other agents who could do the same thing. So it's like, how do you set yourself apart? Because there's agents.
I look better than them.
See?
Do you know what I'm saying?
But you know what I'm saying? Like, it takes time, and you have to be okay with it because there's certain things that you can't control, and you just have to be okay with it and know that if that person doesn't, we're in a market where everything's selling, right? So there's no like, hey, you didn't get the listing, you'll be the next one up. It just sells. It
just sells.
So it's kind of a weird time where you can be less experienced, but have a track record and you can be, you know, you don't have to be as good and you sell no problem, right? I'm not making excuse. I'm just, that's what.
No. And me embodying the same, and honestly, I know I tie everything back, but like, if I'm experienced in my own life with my own good habits and things like that, that will shine through when it comes to business, like
absolutely,
you do.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
it'll have cream rise to the top at some point.
Exactly.
It's just hard to be patient.
And in an industry, in a market where you're literally in a market that's probably the most expensive in the world.
Well, it's the hottest market in the country.
Well,
that
hottest
just came
is
out.
one thing, but I mean,
it's expensive, but not the most expensive.
No, but
it's up there.
It's got to be up there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more billionaires in Greenwich than anywhere else, right?
And you know what I did? I got.
Is that true though, or no? Weren't there like
probably
18 billionaires on the list
There's a lot
in Greenwich?
I see. That's something I probably should know. I wasn't going to mention this, but wasn't going to say the name, but I got Serhant's course, right? Ryan Serhant. He's the guy from $1 Million Listings.
Oh, okay.
So I bought it. It was pretty expensive. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch all of his stuff and see how he does a listing presentation because I was very curious. It's meant for his internal team, it seems like. But I was like, you know what? Let me see. Let me see how he does it. And his pitch was being the best, right? And he had his track record ready, done. He could show things. He knew his stuff, but he kept coming back to, like, if you're getting arm surgery, are you going to go get the second best doctor or are you going to get the best doctor, right? That was his pitch, which is a good one.
Okay.
But you got to get there. I can't go in and say.
Of course, yeah. I was
you
going to say
know?
that's not really that's even like Ed Milet and these guys, right? Like for us to see them, they're at that level already, so it's not really relatable.
Yes,
to us.
It was helpful for sure. Like I did the whole
guess,
course.
But I see what you're saying.
I watched all of his stuff. It's very helpful because it shows you how good he is, and it brings you back down a notch. You're like, wow, I have to do a lot more. You know, I have to be a little more concise on certain things. But it always comes down to like, how are you different? That's always the question, right? So this year with the systems and everything, I need to build out how I'm different and have that answer like down.
Just locked up. Well, that's kind of like your 30-second elevator pitch, right? Like if you get in an elevator with a billionaire and you need to pitch them, what is that pitch? That should be an episode for us.
And I've had people actually come up to me and say like, listen, not come up to me. They've called me and said, listen, I was going to go with you. I have a family member.
Yeah.
I'm giving them a commission, but you were great. You know, if something happens, I'll reach out, which is fine. But that whole adjustment is very bizarre because you're just hearing no constantly.
Well, and the good thing is that, like you said, you have to be patient, right? So that's even a skill in itself. But every year that goes by, really every month that goes by right now, you're in unprecedented terms. You know, the whole world is. But I think people of our age right now in our different industries, we're really the target for people because you have young professionals that are now willing to go above and beyond what the typical, because honestly, a lot of people, I think, if I have a crazy track record, I'm just going to present my track record to you, right?
Well, I know there's a guy in town that does that.
And he gets tons honestly,
of listings.
I mean, I'm sure he has his listings and he'll always get it, right? But I still think there's so much room. Like that to me is like, but how did you start? I would ask that person, that's a great track record. But like, tell me your first big sale.
Yeah.
Like I kind of want to know, right? Like, and that person who has that extreme track record, where did they start? They started at the bottom too. So
everyone started at the same spot. It's just it's yes in theory.
And if I'm 58 years old, my track record's going to be just as good as that guy.
Yeah.
You know,
it's I got to get some type of ratio to be like, well, I did this many deals this year, this much volume. You know,
and I don't even think it's a comparison thing. I would try to look like in my industry, I lose the comparison stuff. I would give facts like, hey, I've done this amount of initiatives I've been able to implement and reallocate X amount of funds here in a short amount of time, not compared to anybody else.
Well, here's the problem: you're competing right against that person for the same job.
For the same listings. So and I don't even think I would honestly. My approach to that, I don't think I would take the comparison approach. I would compare things in real terms versus against that person.
Because my other thing was like I was gonna put together a deck that literally said, here are the big firms in town. Deck. This is how much following I have versus a big firm. So you say you want exposure. This is a whole firm, and I'm beating all their views and all that. So like something like that. And then there's an agent that's been using my name poorly. So I was gonna be ready to talk about her.
You want me to send her flowers?
No, but
you sure? It's Valentine's Day coming up.
Should I? That'd be great.
I think
no,
so.
But I kind of had a coming to Jesus moment where I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna play like. You can't get bullied in this market, and if someone sees that you back down, they're going to take advantage of you because those are people you're negotiating with. So I've been a lot more firm this year with people, especially in Greenwich, because they see me going around as the nice guy. But when it comes to representing clients, you have to show that you have their best interests and you're not going to be pushed around.
Yep.
So part of 2021 is really to like cement my spot, but it's getting listings because you need your name out there to generate. It's like once you get a certain volume of those, then it really kicks in and you accelerate faster. So it's a uphill battle. For
yeah,
sure.
no, that's definitely a tough situation. But again, I would bring it back to controlling what you can control. Like you can't control somebody being, somebody beating you by somebody else's choice or a relationship or something like that. But what you can control is your organizational structure, like you're talking about, the business systems that are in place when you receive an email. What is the preferred amount of time to get back to a new client? The consistency of that over and over and over again. Hey, we just met. The next time you go to a new listing, you're bringing facts from the last conversation. There's business techniques that obviously you already implement, but it's the consistency of it over and over and over again that will end up just speaking for itself.
And I think I need to stop telling myself that I'm young.
I would stop that immediately.
Yeah, because I think
Just for Men Gray works well,
Yeah, I got a couple.
Yeah.
But I think that I've leaned on it a little bit, at least locally,
Yep.
right? Like I shouldn't even, I can acknowledge if they ask a question about it with a good answer, but I don't even think I should even that be an interior dialogue anymore because it's like I'm 30. Like it doesn't matter. If you're good enough, you'll still get it.
Yep.
So maybe I'm just, I have to be that much better to get it, but that's not an excuse not to get it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, look at parenting, right? Why is it that, yes, with a job, somebody who's 58 years old probably has so much more experience than a 30-year-old, right? But look at it in parenting. If you're a 58-year-old first-time dad, why would that make you better?
Yeah, it's fair.
Right? Like, you're still a parent.
Yeah.
So, yeah, here you are. You're still an agent. Yes, this guy's great, but I'm just as good because of X, Y, and Z.
Problem is there's some parents in the market that have 10 kids. And
yeah, right? Like, you're just comparing, like, hey, look.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yes.
Look, my dog and my child doesn't listen to me, okay?
But it makes it more fun because it's such a challenge that it doesn't really come easy. So it's like you constantly have to grow.
Yep.
But to loop it all back, I have to get better at asking better questions. I do a pretty good job, but I should know more than I currently do for new client. Like Serhant, right? He gets it down to the point. Ed Milet, that guy. Do you ever follow Patrick Bet-David?
Yes, I know.
He's the one I'm thinking of. He used to go out to meetings with people. He'd listen to what they say and then send them a gift based on what they said. With like a little, you said you like this.
Yep.
I'll talk to you soon. His follow-up game is insane. So that should be like a core belief of my company or me. Even to the point where we're out to a meeting, right? And you're like, my favorite spot in town is this. And then I just send them a gift card or a meal and just say, listen, I took the liberty to order dinner tonight. You said you were busy. Give me a call next week about the properties. Have a great week. Something where you it's
subtle, but it's
subtle, but it's so professional
and intentional
and so proactive.
Yes,
that people are like, well, what?
Yep. To me, that word is something that I have down on here for when I'm proactive when I'm interviewing people.
Proactive,
right? Like I want to hear how you're proactive in your own life.
Yeah.
Right. And I like people when I interview. Again, I try. It doesn't matter if I'm interviewing a high school student like Justin or I'm interviewing somebody that's going to be the next commissioner. Right?
Could be Justin.
It could be. But I like vulnerability.
Yeah.
I like hearing things that typically you don't hear in job interviews. And the way that you do that is you really focus on your own life because your own life is the only real unique thing about you.
Yeah.
The clothes that you wear, the jewelry you wear, the diamond that you have in your that's not that.
Maybe I'll do that. Maybe that'll get me business. But how are you different?
Everything is so it's too easy, right? So I look and what I teach, especially to students and college kids that are going for interviews, is speak about your own life in quantifiable terms, and how you're proactive in your approach. I already know that you're probably not the best person in the world for this job because there's 10 people that are better than you. Yeah. Why are you the best? And you have to be able to take a proactive approach. And yes, the questions help. I love when people ask me questions like, well, what's your vision down the line? Yeah. How can I help and, get involved in what you want to do? How can I assist you? But also I love to hear, and this is something I learned a little later, is the honesty of hey, I really want to learn.
Yeah.
I'm really not just here for this job, right? I want to learn. And yes, of course, there's the jobs that you got to take because you just need your salary and whatever. But for the majority of times that I'm interviewing people, I don't want to really hear why you want this job. I want to hear the proactiveness of, how this is going to set you up for future success.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Nail on the head. It's a question I keep asking myself throughout the day is how can I be proactive, right? The market's nuts. Can't find deals for people. I have so many multifamily clients where no one's selling because they're making fortunes. So I literally went through all the rental listings, reached out to every agent, said, listen, if you're a person willing to sell, I have clients all cash, ready to go. Boom, boom. I do like 20 of those. And then I'm like, all right, well, then I'm proactive. How can I make this a system? So then I take all those names with the agents, with the addresses, and put them in an Excel doc. So, then I start a follow-up process with my multifamily network. So it's like the real way I think you stand out in any industry is being proactive when you don't have to be, right? Because the way to look at it is like, yes, you can sell a property by just sitting back, doing an open house, doing some marketing. But how much quicker, how many more actions can you take that'll push you along faster if you go out and proactively find things that are off market? The real value is getting stuff off market now, right? Like the real value is the guy that's like, I have a good network in town. I don't have the off market volume that a lot of people have. And I've done a bunch of deals this year where I realized I'm like, that's the game. You have to have off market stuff, because if I take you to a property and you don't like that property, I can pitch you something that's not on the MLS that they can find with another agent, right? So if people are like, he's got tons of contacts, he talks to everyone, he bothers everyone, and that guy who you talked to a year ago that wasn't ready to sell at the moment just got a new project he wants to do and he wants it out. So he calls, the agent calls me when I call my client. So it's like, it's very easy to not be proactive if you're being successful. Like if you're doing well, it's easier to be proactive when you're stagnant. But I'm trying to challenge myself to be proactive even when you're doing well.
Even when you're doing well. Yeah, no, that's a good thing. And I think that is what separates people to even where we're trying to go, right? You have like great people and you got elite people. Yeah. And for me, it's the consistency of that. A question that I love to ask people in interviews is it's along the lines of like, okay, I get it. You're motivated today, right now, to get this job. If I were to interview you 2 years from now, what right now in your life is going to motivate you to still be inspired in 2 years? Right now.
That's a good question.
And the people who say, wow, you know what, like, something maybe something will happen 2 years, 2 years down the line that will give me an experience that I could talk about. I'm like, that's not a proactive person.
What would your answer be to that?
What would my answer be to that? That's a good one. I have.
Has anyone ever asked you that?
I asked myself it.
Okay, and what do you answer?
But I don't want to answer it with the typical answer that I say, because
you can. I mean, why not?
Let me take it a little further though. If I were to ask, because I think this is quantifiable to even you too, and I'll answer the question, but it would be to you.
If you don't, you're not getting the job. So
right, exactly. But to you, if you were to sell my house, right, and I were to say, Mike, if I give you this listen, what is going to inspire you to come back and sell my house if I have another property
2 years from now?
Just down the line, right? So what it is for me always is it comes down to my relationships with people. And this is usually how I answer the question. I like the organization that I'm in, and I'm inspired and I'm motivated by the relationships and the people that are around me, and I'm inspired to continuously do better for not only myself but for everybody else. And I usually speak to the coworkers that are, because one person specifically asked me, well, that's a good question, how would you answer it? And I'm like, buddy, like I really want to hear your answer. For me, it really stems for those relationships, because the relationships that I look to build in my life, and it doesn't matter if I don't even know one person in that new organization, right? I'm still inspired by the relationship that I have with my daughter, the relationship that I have with my wife, right? Because that relationship is then going to obviously motivate me. So relationships have been a big thing for me to specifically answer that question. But I like hearing people's thoughts.
Yeah.
When they, and it's a great question, because you're usually thrown off by it.
Yeah.
Because like you don't have an initial reaction, and the best thing to do in that situation is to, that's a good question. Let me think about it.
Yeah. I guess my answer to a lot of those questions would be like, I don't know if you're going to be in this market in 2 years, but I plan on spending the rest of my life in Greenwich. So I'm going to be an agent selling in town for the rest of my life, and I'm not going to take the opportunity to ruin my reputation just to get a deal done. I'm going to make sure you're happy, because if you're not, it doesn't do us any good.
Yep. And what's great about that question is it really it tells me a lot about the person's lifestyle. And if you really can't find an answer, that's okay, because that tells me, and I've said this before, you're still seeking that motivation, which is great, because motivation, again, like we always talk about, I think that falls off. But I'm always going to be motivated by the things that are going on in my life, right? And I will continue no matter what job it is that I'm going to take or that I'm getting into. My habits will still be sustained, right? I'm motivated to come to work every day because before I come to work for you, I'm already working for myself. That's been something that I said.
That's a good one.
I said that actually to the town board that was interviewing me, just to be honest with them, like I don't ever want to just come to work for somebody, right?
Did you
like,
put them your in-body?
What?
Did you show me your in-body?
Yeah,
Said that's the work right there.
And that's the response back is like, well, how do you think that I'm motivated after, going through this in my life? Or how do you think I'm motivated after having a child and then waking up 3 times during the night? Like, I live this, I do this, and I'm excited to jump on board and get this opportunity.
Yeah. The working for yourself thing's interesting. It's like Serhant, which I've been on kind of I get a couple people in the YouTube algorithm and they just keep popping up. He always says, like, you work for yourself in 10 years. Because in 10 years, if you look back, don't be angry with yourself. You didn't do enough work.
Yep.
Right? You want to look back at, like, in a couple years and be like, wow, I owe that kid a lot of credit because now I'm in a position where I'm able to do all this stuff versus looking back and like, damn, like if I could have talked to him and told him to work harder, you know what I mean? Which is interesting. I never thought of it that way.
And people always say it, right? But I'm going to say it from an interviewer standpoint. Be yourself. Like, you don't have to, you don't really have to relate to just the job. Speak to your personal self, even if it's something that's like, a summer camp position, a seasonal thing, right? I don't want to hear why you're the best for the job. I want to know how it's going to like help you in your own life. And that is something when you really hold that, right? Like for like Justin and that age group, even in college, again, nobody lives your life. So the more that you can relate your life to the actual job is something that will, I think, propel you forward and be more likely for you to get the job,
Beautiful.
We wanted to take a quick second to let you guys know that we partnered with our good friends over at Orgain.com. We're happy to offer our listeners 30% off by entering the code NOSNOOZE30. Again, that's NOSNOOZE30 for 30% off your first order. If you're on the market for a new protein powder, nutritional shake, protein bar, or Mike's favorite, collagen peptides, Orgain is your one-stop shop. As all of you know, my Crohn's disease is currently in remission, and the only protein I use is from Orgain. My personal favorites are the chocolate peanut butter and the vanilla bean. With the code, you can try a 2-pound tub for under $20. Talk about not snoozing. Go get yours today. Now, back to the epi.
And then can I jump into the partner concept?
Yeah, absolutely.
So part of the realization I think I've come to is that like I enjoy having partners, but I don't enjoy managing people, right? Because at least in my industry, it takes you away from actually doing your business, right? And I don't think I'm at a position where I can like mentor agents because I'm not established where I want to be yet. So in my approach, I'm trying to find partners that complement what I'm doing, but aren't in the same lane, or it's not a lane that will merge and they will try to come and be an agent. You know what I mean? Like I'm not looking for another agent. I'm looking for someone that loves social media and just happens to love Greenwich and real estate. Or I'm looking for people that are harder to find, but are aspirational in the areas where I need them to be, so that my platform can help them accelerate, and then their expertise can accelerate my platform. So it's like everything I'm trying to add, there's got to be a mutually beneficial relationship and a synergy that adds to my focus, which is real estate, right? Where in the past I would just partner with like whoever, whatever. But then I realized that's energy that's taken away from what I'm trying to accomplish. So like, an example would be like finding someone who does development. Like they're not going to want to sell properties themselves, or if they do, I don't want to talk to them, but they just want to develop their own stuff. Like that's a perfect candidate for someone me to align with, because they don't want to sell, so they're going to have leads, so they'll send them your leads, and then you send them your business of stuff that you don't want, you can't develop, you don't have the expertise, and you do. So there's content creation. There's a million ways you can go about it, but the only way you get to know how you can help that person, ask the questions. What's your goal? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? My most important question I've been saying is, what's your biggest pain point right now in your business? And then if someone's like, we don't have enough leads or we don't make enough content, then my next answer is how I can help address that. If I can, I can't. But if it's like, listen, I love content, we just don't do it well. All right, well, we can co-brand. I'll cover the cost. I'll use your, amazing properties that I don't have enough volume to have consistent content, and I'll shoot the videos, and then we'll put your logo, So there's always an answer, but that's a question that you can get there faster. I'm not saying don't warm up, talk, BS,
Yep. No,
but
makes
that's
a
a question that should be in everyone's arsenal.
Very basic question.
So, like the most basic.
No. I have a extremely basic question, but I always like hearing it. What's your weakness?
My weakness is that
In an interview, by the way.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
don't tell me.
Like an interview.
Don't really
answer?
tell me. Don't tell me how your life is in shambles.
Not
here.
getting enough protein.
Yeah, I want you like, and then you can ask me because I do think that's an interview question. That's an old school interview question, but that should always be addressed on an interview process.
Yeah.
And people need to really know how to sell themselves with a weakness, but still being honest.
Yeah.
Because too many times it's like
I'm too perfect.
Yeah. Like it's something stupid. And yes, you always want your weakness to be a strength. But I'm curious on your end, if you're asked that question in a professional setting, what's Mike Pirelli's biggest weakness?
I would say my weakness in my professional world right now would be the volume of business. I do a very good job with a certain amount of volume, and I'm building out the processes and team to obtain more. The way I've counteracted that is that I've limited my geographical coverage. Right? So weakness in the past was being pulled in too many directions in different markets. Mm-hmm. I've identified that, and now I focus primarily in Greenwich, which has allowed me to scale up my business and also maintain control.
Yep.
A weakness was, though, I was trying to be too many things to too many people.
Yep. Makes
so
sense.
I usually address the weakness and then tell you how I fixed it.
Right. No, which is smart. For me, and it's a very honest weakness, but like I hold myself to an extreme standard. And then what I do is I don't want to do this, but it happens automatically. I almost expect that high level from other people, right? So I've had to learn how to manage that and say, yes, you can hold yourself to an extremely high level. However, Mike is not going to get the same amount of work done in the same amount of time as I may or as Claudio may. And I have to, if I am going to be in a leadership role moving forward, especially on a commissioner level, I had to really learn. And again, this is something I work on all the time because I don't think my standard of myself will ever fall, but I have to be okay with people submitting mediocre things, and I'm not being funny.
I love when he says mediocre.
No, but I'm not being funny.
Mediocre is
but
such a passive aggressive harsh word.
Well, it's the truth because you have average, right, and then you have below average, which is mediocre. So I have to be okay with obtaining a mediocre thing. In my head, I could think like, wow, this is pretty mediocre, but the way that I respond has to be in a coachable way, and I have to really learn how to, teach that through, and be okay with accepting other people's expectations may not be as high as you expect from yourself. So that was a major weakness of mine, and something that I'm extremely. It's still a weakness of mine, but I'm extremely conscious of it now. And honestly, I'm a confident guy, and I don't believe whether it's working out or it's in business. I do believe that I will work harder than you, whoever I'm up against,
especially on the Peloton.
Right, but it's also a realization that knowing that other people work just as hard.
Here's the thing, right? There's always here's another realization I came to. I have these epiphanies a lot. I must be drinking too much caffeine or taking too many showers. Everyone's always going to work harder, but can you work hard and efficiently? Right? Like it's when you can combine the working hard but have phenomenal systems behind you, then you really take off.
I think this is a switch for you, my man, because I think you used to say like work smarter, not harder type thing.
No. I always worked hard. So
always. Yes.
Like
always.
I always
but
worked 7 days a week. So
yes.
I've never had a problem working hard. But the realization is you can work hard, but if you're not being efficient in the way you work, there's going to be no compound effect.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
And I hate the quote, work smarter, not harder, because I believe that you have to do both. You have to work extremely smart and extremely hard.
Yeah.
And yes, there's certain ways to cut corners and do certain things, but I do believe that the smart way of working and the hard way of working is something that aligns. That's also a good interview thing. Like, you bring up something typical like that. Like most people say, work smarter, not harder. Right? Yes, I get it for energy purposes and saving yourself, but if you address that in an interview right from the start and you're like, yeah, that's some people, but I actually work smart and hard.
Yeah. It's kind of a vague term, though, hard. Hard's kind of a vague term.
It is. Go ahead, CV.
I wanted to add something. I have a pet peeve. I'm stalling in case I have to cut this one. pet peeve of a term. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I cannot stand that. To me.
Oh, when people say it?
Oh.
Why though?
Have you said it? Have we said it?
No.
I'm a firm believer in.
I do believe in teamwork.
I'm a firm believer in team. And this was a separation between us too. There was an episode that you were saying, it was during COVID when we were doing virtual, but you were more like, look, I want to know how to kind of do everything, and I want to do my own content creation, blah blah. And I was more like, look, I'm going to put my energy into what I'm an expert at, and I'm going to find other people to do it.
So
right.
I'm saying this not. I mean, what
think
you're
it's
saying
combination,
makes a whole total
I
sense.
mean, you got to know what's going on.
The reason I don't like it, many times it's associated by some work hard while some don't. But because we're in a teamwork, we made it happen, and that's where the pet peeve for me comes in. You're absolutely right. In a good team, if your expertise is X and yours is Y and mine is Z, and we are collaboratively busting our hump to get things done, and we get a higher, achievable goal.
Exponential, yeah.
Great. You're absolutely right. I'll love the quote then.
Yeah.
But many times,
It's
people
not
that
used.
say that
Yeah, yeah.
are
Yes.
usually the people that are like chilling, not really working
That's a good
hard.
point.
Yeah.
And then when it gets done and everything looks gorgeous,
Yeah.
ooh,
Like, yo, look what we
Yeah.
did.
yeah,
no, it's good.
teamwork makes the dream work.
Yep.
Pet peeve, big time pet peeve.
Yeah, you always have to ask yourself too. There's a lot of inner dialogue with myself. You always have to ask, am I working towards my dream or am I working for someone else's dream? And it's okay to work on both your dreams, but you have to make sure you're always putting towards yours as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like sometimes I've caught myself like, what am I doing? Like it's different. I mean, real estate, it all kind of funnels up, but you get in situations like, what am I doing? I'm covering for this person. They've never helped.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm not saying you don't be the bigger person, but sometimes you got to kind of audit that.
Which is something that you were tremendous at attaching the no snooze lifestyle kind of to everything in your life, because we both realized from the start, all three of us realized, now hopefully Justin will get it. You're not certified yet, my man. But
I don't think I am either.
you almost realized that, you know what, even though us meeting up and doing that one episode may have not had a benefit on you in a positive way in that moment, the skill set that we're coming together to build habits and be consistent with something, it really aligns so perfectly in anything that we approach in our life.
Well, it's also the lens that you use for things. Like
Yes.
I feel like something I do very well, and I don't talk about it a lot, is I have this lens that I can make myself convinced that what I'm doing is contributing to the higher goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like with No Snooze in my head, I'm like, this is great because there'll be more exposure, get to hang with friends. It develops the habits that I need to get back in shape. If I'm back in shape, I'll be better looking. If I'm better looking, I'll get more
confidence.
deals because people.
Oh, wow.
There's
So I'll be a great.
yeah. So, but right, like you're better looking, get more deals, you get a suit sponsorship, whatever. That in turn allows you to contribute more to the podcast because you're going to be telling more good stories. So if you can't bounce things back and forth like up the ladder,
You are extremely good at that. I will say.
like even getting coffee and someone's being rude to you, which hasn't happened at Coffee Liquid, they're great, but somewhere else, right?
Yep.
In your head, if you're like, all right, this is a good opportunity to like practice. Can I make this person laugh? Can I maybe get a client out of it? Luckily, and we can. It's all good content for No Snooze. That's my way to bring it back, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's all good content. So even when you're having a terrible time, you can kind of laugh now, like we did with Chris when we got lost.
Yes.
So that's like
Pissed
a
me
thing.
off, though. I'm
That's
not
a
gonna
skill.
lie. You're a terrible driver.
Yeah, I'm bad.
That's one of your weaknesses.
There's things listen, I've if there's one thing I've adopted from you is that no, yeah, that's true. I know that I have certain weaknesses, but I still need to know a little bit about it. But now I don't even mess with it. I'm like, you know what? It's better off just to get someone else to do it. Yes, it's going to be a little, little more money, whatever it is, but I got to focus on something else. So.
Yeah, and honing in on something, and that's where I truly believe the get comfortable being uncomfortable thing is where people, they hear it and they think to themselves, let me go try something that's completely different and out of my wheelhouse, as we say, whereas I'm obsessed with getting comfortable being uncomfortable in the same wheelhouse, because I will become an expert at what it is that I'm focusing on. You know what I mean? And say you're a really good walker, right? We know people that, no, but seriously.
Someone say the best.
Getting uncomfortable, being uncomfortable to some, maybe like, okay, well, jump in the swimming pool and go do that. Whereas my uncomfortableness would be like, okay, set a calendar for 60 days and walk 3 miles every day. right? Because that's an uncomfortable thing. You got to do that every single day. So I think the elite of the elite have that, right? They focus on something that they're so good at, making sure that they can do something consistently over an extended period of time is something that I try to hone in and I focus on it. Again, nowhere near elite in terms of where I want to be, but that's the separation for me in terms of the get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I definitely wanted to explain it because there is a thing to, hey, I really like to walk, go jump in a pool. I think that's good too. But the person who likes to walk and then they do that every single day, they'll be the best walker in the world.
And then my question is, like, is there a more efficient way to walk?
Yeah, right? Take a scooter.
But like the constant learning and refining what you're doing, I think is important. Because
and the systems. I mean, building better systems is always.
But like if you're walking 3 miles every day versus the guy who's like, you know what? If I walk at high altitudes, I'll get better. You know, there's a different. Yes. You got to keep tweaking.
Yep, 100%. This was good stuff, man.
I thought it sucked. I'm not even gonna re-listen.
I think we rambled. I think we rambled a good bit here.
It was a very good ramble.
Right?
I didn't even know what we talked about. I blacked out.
Yeah, me too. All I got from this episode, Lil Uzi Vert got a $24 million.
And I'm a vegan.
And Mike's a vegan. So this will bring us to my favorite section, Dave's Dime of the Week.
Dimes.
And this plays into kind of what you were saying.
Are you going to quote me?
What? No,
Are you going to quote me?
If someone offers you an amazing opportunity, say yes, then learn how to do it later. And that's by Richard Branson.
That's my guy.
Right? But a lot of people, me included, I'm so focused on, like, I got to be the expert. I got to do this. I got to figure out how to do it. You got to be confident in yourself. If you get an opportunity, take the opportunity. Figure out how to become the expert after you receive the opportunity. Right? Don't count yourself out.
It's good. I like that a lot. And mine, I think, complements that very well.
Talk to me.
All right. Miguelito's mantras.
Ito.
Learning is not a spectator sport.
Ooh. I do like that one.
It's a good one. You learn by action. Jim Quick, little shout out. That's his quote.
Quick
is
brain.
Really good. Yeah.
I know
have you
Jim
read
Quick.
Atomic Habits?
Yes.
I meant to ask you.
Yep.
Yeah, that James Clear guy. Good stuff.
Good stuff, my brother, as always. We got another one in the books. That flex looks pretty good.
Mr. 16%.
I think I'm going to go take my suit jacket off and go flex.
You have too many layers.
Don't ask me about my biggest strength, but if you want to know it, hold on, I'll take my shirt off. Until next time, stop snoozing.
Get up, get after it.
No, really, I want to flex, though.
Yeah, if I get to 10%, I'm going shirt off. That's another Epi in the books. Go follow us on Instagram and Facebook at No Snooze Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, No Snooze.